The relationship between Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg at Mercedes was built long before they became Formula One teammates. The two drivers first raced against each other in karting and knew each other from their junior careers. When Rosberg joined Mercedes for the 2013 season, Hamilton became his teammate, beginning a partnership that lasted 4 seasons, from 2013 through 2016. During those years, the competition between them developed into one of the most intense teammate rivalries of the modern Formula One era. Hamilton won the 2014 and 2015 championships, while Rosberg remained his closest internal challenger and eventually took the title in 2016. The most damaging incident came at the 2016 Spanish Grand Prix. Hamilton started from pole position, but Rosberg made the better launch and moved ahead at turn 1. Rosberg then lost power because his Mercedes was in the wrong engine mode, allowing Hamilton to close rapidly through turn 3. Hamilton attempted to move down the inside approaching turn 4, but Rosberg defended the position. Hamilton went onto the grass and lost control, and his Mercedes struck Rosberg's car. Both Mercedes machines ended up in the gravel and retired on lap 1. Mercedes scored 0 points from the race, while Max Verstappen, aged just 18, won on his Red Bull debut and became the youngest Formula One race winner at the time. The Spanish crash was not an isolated incident. At the 2016 Austrian Grand Prix, Hamilton and Rosberg fought for the victory again, this time on the final lap. Hamilton attacked Rosberg for the lead at turn 2, and contact followed. Rosberg damaged his front wing and dropped to 4th, while Hamilton won the race. Rosberg went on to win the 2016 title and retired from the sport days later. Almost a decade later, Toto Wolff provided a much clearer account of what happened inside Mercedes after those incidents. The important point is that this was not a new rumor created during the current 2026 championship fight. Wolff discussed the episode in an interview with The Athletic published in April 2026, explaining that Mercedes had reached a point where the rivalry was no longer being treated as normal competition. Wolff said the drivers could compete aggressively, but there were limits that could not be crossed. His most direct statement was, in 2016, Rosberg and Hamilton crashed, and then they crashed again. So I fired them. Wolff explained that he drafted redundancy notices and sought approval from then Daimler CEO Dieter Zetsche. The decision was connected not only to the drivers but also to the approximately 2,500 employees working at Brackley and Brixworth whose livelihoods were connected to Mercedes' Formula One operation. Wolff ultimately backed away from permanently removing both drivers because he could not assign complete responsibility for the incidents to one driver. Instead, Mercedes introduced a financial consequence for contact between the teammates. Hamilton and Rosberg were required to accept financial responsibility for crash damage, with the agreement making them liable for a substantial portion of the costs created by incidents between them. The purpose was straightforward: the drivers could race each other, but they could not allow their personal rivalry to create unnecessary costs and championship damage for the organization. The story became even more significant when Nico Rosberg responded to Wolff's account this week. Speaking on the High Performance podcast, in comments reported on August 15, 2026, Rosberg confirmed that a conversation between Wolff and Dieter Zetsche did take place. However, he questioned whether an actual firing was ever seriously close to becoming reality. Rosberg indicated that a one-race suspension would have been a more realistic disciplinary measure. His account therefore does not simply erase Wolff's version. Instead, both insiders confirmed that a serious internal discussion happened, while giving different weight to how close Mercedes came to actually removing the drivers. Rosberg also identified areas where he believed Mercedes could have managed the Hamilton-Rosberg rivalry differently, although those comments should be understood as his assessment of the situation rather than a confirmed organizational verdict. This history has resurfaced because the 2026 Mercedes situation has created another championship-leading driver pairing. After 11 rounds, Mercedes has won 8 races and leads both the Drivers' and Constructors' Championships. Kimi Antonelli has 219 points, Lewis Hamilton, now driving for Ferrari, has 169, and George Russell has 160. Antonelli has won 6 races, while Russell has taken 2 victories. The numbers show that Mercedes has built a substantial advantage, but they also show that the pressure inside and outside the team is increasing as the season moves into its second half. Wolff has already addressed the possibility of another teammate rivalry becoming destructive. Speaking to Racing News 365 in late July, he gave an unusually direct warning: "I will not allow it. That's never going to happen to me again." He continued with an even stronger statement: "I'm just taking a driver out if he does that." The comments directly connect the current Mercedes lineup to the lessons Wolff believes the organization learned from Hamilton and Rosberg in 2016. Mercedes allows its drivers to fight for position, but contact between teammates that damages cars or costs the team championship points remains a clear red line. George Russell's own Mercedes history also explains why the current situation is significant. Before becoming a full-time Mercedes driver in 2022, Russell received an unexpected opportunity at the 2020 Sakir Grand Prix when Hamilton was unavailable after testing positive for COVID-19. Russell received approximately 48 hours' notice before replacing Hamilton. He also had to fit into a Mercedes car designed around 2 shorter drivers, creating immediate physical challenges. Russell later described the consequences in simple terms: "I've still got the scars on my hips." Russell's Sakir performance demonstrated how close he came to producing one of Formula One's most unusual debut victories. He qualified P2, moved into the lead during the race and appeared capable of controlling the event. His chances disappeared after Mercedes suffered a double pit stop error during a safety car period, forcing Russell to recover through the field. A late puncture created another setback, and Russell eventually finished P9. The episode is best understood as evidence of the opportunity Russell had to win on his Mercedes debut and the physical demands of adapting to the car, rather than as evidence of lasting psychological damage. Since 2016, Mercedes has introduced structural safeguards designed to prevent teammate conflict from reaching the same level. Financial penalties for contact, formalized rules of engagement and explicit red lines for on-track behavior have become part of the team's approach. These measures are designed to make the consequences clear before a rivalry becomes destructive. Wolff has repeatedly emphasized that competition itself is not the problem. The problem begins when competition becomes animosity and starts damaging the organization. There is, however, a practical question about how far those safeguards can go if both Mercedes drivers become genuine championship contenders. Outside analysts have questioned whether Wolff would actually remove a driver who was delivering major points and victories for the team, particularly if Antonelli and Russell were separated by only a small margin in the championship. That question becomes even more complicated because Mercedes is not only fighting an internal battle. Lewis Hamilton and Ferrari are currently the closest external challenge to Mercedes, meaning every lost point could have consequences in both championships. The 2026 standings make the situation especially important. Kimi Antonelli has 219 points, putting him 50 points ahead of Lewis Hamilton and 59 points ahead of George Russell after 11 rounds. Antonelli has already taken 6 victories and is leading his first championship fight at the age of 19. Russell has 160 points and 2 wins, meaning he remains a significant part of Mercedes' championship campaign even though he trails his teammate. Hamilton's 169 points make him the closest challenger to Antonelli, but he is now competing from Ferrari rather than inside the Mercedes garage. That difference changes the nature of the rivalry compared with 2016. Hamilton and Rosberg were fighting for the championship while driving identical Mercedes machinery and receiving the same technical support. In 2026, Antonelli and Russell are teammates, but Hamilton is now outside the team and challenging Mercedes directly from Ferrari. This means Mercedes has to manage both internal competition and an external championship threat at the same time. Antonelli's position is also historically significant. At only 19, he is leading his first full Formula One championship battle while already producing 6 victories. Russell has considerably more Formula One experience and remains capable of winning races, but Antonelli has established the stronger points position through the opening 11 rounds. Mercedes therefore has to protect the championship lead while allowing both drivers to continue competing at the highest level. Russell has also publicly warned that Mercedes cannot become complacent while rivals continue to close the gap. Ferrari's challenge means Mercedes cannot afford unnecessary points losses, especially as the championship moves deeper into the season. Every internal incident would carry a greater cost if it allows Ferrari to reduce the advantage in the Constructors' Championship or Hamilton to reduce Antonelli's lead in the Drivers' Championship. The remaining races will therefore test whether the safeguards created after 2016 can withstand another period of intense competition. Wolff has made his position clear: Mercedes will allow its drivers to race, but it will not tolerate a repeat of the collisions and escalating rivalry that defined the Hamilton-Rosberg partnership. The unresolved issue is whether those rules will remain sufficient if Antonelli and Russell move closer together while Hamilton and Ferrari continue challenging Mercedes from outside the team.